Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another riveting episode of If Margaritas Could Talk, the Over 40 Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Tracee Black, and today, co-host Charity Jones and I, we're working through the lifelong questions about friendships. So, pour yourself a margarita and let's get into the juicy stuff. Hi, Charity. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Tracee?
Super. Fantastic. It's Mother's Day weekend. And do you have any Mother's Day plans with your children?
I do. I have one child coming over, I think tonight or tomorrow morning, and we are going to go to Mayfest downtown. There's a whole festival to celebrate summer downtown Tulsa. There's Guthrie Green, a green space with a big stage and a beer garden, and they'll have music. It started yesterday, so 4 days of festivities and art and vendors everywhere. So we're going to go do that. And then we're going to go to an oddities fair. My other daughter's coming up Sunday, and we're going to go to oddities fair and check out all the cool odd things. So I'm excited.
Ooh, sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yes. So my best friend and I are actually going to a vineyard to have lunch on Mother's Day.
It's lovely.
Yes. And it's been very, very hot. Our weather's been amazing. So here we are. We're talking about the big one today. Can men and women really be friends after the relationship ends? And how do female friendships shift and thrive once we hit that fabulous age of 40 and beyond? These are the questions we're asking today. So one of the things we're talking about, sort of the breakup friend zone. Have you ever been in that situation? Is it real?
I've been in it several times. And I think that it all depends on kind of how the dynamic was. You know, sometimes that chemistry, you can know you're toxic for each other, but you can't hide that chemistry. It comes back. And so there's some men that I don't feel like I could be friends with, especially if I started another relationship. I don't think it'd be appropriate. But there's some men that, you know how the balance of relationships are. Somebody always likes somebody else more. So if I feel like if they're the one that liked me more, it's, of course, easier because then you can just be friends and you're like, you know, he's just a guy. But if I'm the one that was head over heels and totally in love, it could take 2 sentences to get me right back where I was.
Right.
There's some of those lifelong holds that I don't think I could ever just be friends with.
Ooh, I like that. Lifelong holds. So you've broken up. It's done. Maybe it was messy. Maybe it was mutual. I think that being friends, it's a weird terminology because if you were friends to begin with when you started and then you ended up in a relationship, are you not still friends? But then you know what sort of the theory is that if you're friends before you start and then it doesn't work out, then you're afraid to lose that friendship. So the primary question I would have is, can you go back to just being friends again? Is that real? Or is someone low key sort of hoping for a comeback? I don't know.
Well, that, or I think it also depends on how much pain was involved. I had a good friend that I don't even think we ever really truly dated. Well, we did in my mind, but I'm not sure he thought we were dating. Of course, I liked him more. The rejection and just kind of how he handled that situation, I lost interest in being friends or continuing the friendship. I think it can happen sometimes. It also depends on, are we talking about friends that are hanging out and going to a movie or dinner? Or are we talking about you can text when you've had a bad day and you just need somebody to talk to? I've got tons of friends that I just text on a holiday, Happy Father's Day, Merry Christmas. And I would still call them a friend, but we're not going to dinner and having margaritas, you know.
So are those previous exes, though? Or are they just strictly ever friends? Or did you actually have a intimate, emotional, connected relationship with these people? Yes? No?
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. I guess to the level of a real committed relationship that was deep, probably not. Yeah.
I think that over a span of years, when you're starting out young, right, women specifically have the good old fairy tales of meeting the prince and he lives in a castle and all the things. This is not reality. Why do we keep teaching our children that that's a part of reality? We grow up, again, Ken and Barbie, right? There's all these relationship factors where this is the ideology of what a relationship is when you're a young child. Then you start to grow up, you become a teenager, you realize what boys are, and you start from there. And then as you're getting older and you're maturing, you're getting more emotionally cleaned up on what a relationship is and what it looks like. But do we all not, when we're younger, have this hope to meet that perfect guy and he's your forever person? Yeah, we do, because that's what society pushes,
Yeah.
right? So were you a progressive mom where you didn't teach your kids that that's reality? Or do you keep your kids in the underside of that? Their hopes and dreams are to meet a prince, get married, and do all the things.
I was pretty progressive, but I was a single mom. I got divorced when they were almost 3. And then I went to school for 6 years. Went to school, got a master's. So I worked my tail off. And I think I gave them more of the messages. Make sure you can take care of yourself and find someone that doesn't get on your nerves.
Get on your nerves.
If that's possible. I mean, we all get on each other's nerves, but that you're friends with, that you can stand to spend extended amount of time with without being in love, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The love fades. I don't feel like I painted any fairy tales for my kids. It probably could have been a little more Disney-fied.
Good old Disney. That's what they're there for. They're the hopes and dreams that are not real at all. Right? My name is Jasmine. He's going to be a prince. We're going to fly away on a carpet. That's what's going to happen there. And when he kisses me for the first time, life is going to be beautiful. Well, no, that is not reality. I think going back to kind of the teen years where it's like pure excitement of hope and landing the love that will last a lifetime. And then you become an adult. You have to find out that love can be brutally messy and maybe not exactly what you thought it would be. So I had my first love relationship when I was 14 when we met, and we dated for an extended period of time. We went to 2 separate schools. We met over the telephone because my best friend was dating his best friend. And then we just became a thing, and we fell head over heels in love. The wonderful thing about it is that when you land your very first love, you think it's going to be forever. And then it isn't. And then you have your first heartbreak, and that is no fun.
Yeah.
And then you think your life is over and it's all this drama and it's a mess and you're a mess. And then you move on and you meet someone new and you go through the same thing until you find you're maturing. But I find it interesting when you look at relationships, and I want to know your thoughts on this. Relationships where they've met in high school, they were high school sweethearts, and they're still together 30, 40 years later, 50 years later. Like, what is that? It's so rare. Like what do they call it? It's like an anomaly. It's so rare that really truly is a thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that takes a lot of dedication. I don't think that those relationships are probably any easier. They could be. I've been divorced so long. But looking from the outside, all of these long-term relationships, they overlook faults. And I mean, not to a negative, I'm not trying to be negative about it, but, you tolerate each other and you give each other leeway. And I think they all take work. And I think some people stay together because they're too scared of change and independence and starting over. I mean, people used to have really long-term relationships, but women were so chastised for divorce that, that had to play a role.
I think maintaining friendships after the mess is over is probably more difficult than maintaining the actual relationship. So having expectations, and I truly believe this, like my husband and I are actually better friends than we are as partners. We treat each other more like we are best friends. We get each other, we understand each other, we annoy each other, all the things where you recognize, and this is my second marriage. My first marriage was, too young, too quick, too fast, kids, and done. Just things where you go, I think I know you better than you know yourself, and vice versa. When you get into that phase, my friends and people are talking and chatting about it, and they say you're supposed to find that person that you are friends with through to the end. When all the other things aside start to shift or change, you have to have the strongest foundation, which is a friendship. And I never fully understood that till now in the phase, what that means. Yeah. And so I think when we look at people out in the dating world, that when you're out in the dating world, is it still better to be out there looking for the friendship or out there looking for the companionship with, all of the plus benefits, and then put that still friendship stuff aside? I don't know. We're getting older, so that the friendship probably means more than any of the other stuff. But the other stuff is an added bonus if you can get it. But then there is a fine line. If it's just a friendship and nothing else, where are you? It's just a friendship. That's it.
Well, and I think that finding love young, like we were talking about, you have more opportunities to spend time together in college and in high school and even in your 20s going out. And then now in our 40s and 50s, we want to stay home and we enjoy cooking together as a date, or the activities change and your time availability is so much different that it's hard to develop those friendships in your natural environments if you're not getting out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, then you lean on the dating sites and things and start with the dating part and hope that you can be friends. And that part's exhausting.
Is it authentic, do you think, at this age?
For the online dating?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've tried it a few times. I've had some success. I mean, I'm still single, so obviously not the greatest. But in my experience, the last couple of men I've dated have turned out to be separated, which they legitimately had made steps to move on from their marriage, but not. I mean, to me, if you're legally married, you're married.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're not single enough for me. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, single is single is single. Paper signed. Done.
Yeah. I mean, if you're still sharing a credit card or a bank account with someone, you're not single enough for me. Call it what you want. But
people out there like, oh, it's complicated. Their profile saying it's complicated. What's complicated about it? It's either you're in or you're out. There's no in between. I mean, now, that being said, are there rules? Yes, there's rules. Of course, there's rules. When you take a vow to be married to somebody, it's your responsibility to show up, right? And if you choose not to show up and you want it the easy way out, and then you're like, oh, we're separated, and you go onto the dating websites and you do all the things, that's cheating, period. There's no ifs, ands, or ups about it until the paper is signed on the dotted line and it's done and there's no more connection. I mean, if you have shared children, there's always connection. You're not in each other's lives anymore.
It's kind of like a codependency thing.
Yes.
For me. I mean, once I'm done, I rip it like a Band-Aid. If I'm done, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's taking maturity, though. I wasn't always like that.
Of course
I used to go after the crumbles of hope,
Crumbles of hope. You heard it here. Stop it, ladies. There's no crumbles of hope. It's over.
No crumbles. Rip it like a Band-Aid. Just take it off.
So do you think that friendships have gotten... As we are aging, are they deeper? Are they wiser? When you're still friends with people after 50 years, for an example, is it the same as it was before? Chances are probably no. But I think that the fluff, people don't want the fluff after 40. You want people to check in, hold space, and know when you need to vent versus when you need a tequila and a playlist, right?
Yeah. And when you want advice. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So in life changes like marriage, kids, career shifts, how do those things affect friendships? I think they do. Do they bring these changes of women being closer, or do they sometimes cause distance? What's been your knowledge and experience in there?
Well, speaking of my female friendships, I think it can deepen the relationship, but I think it also does create distance. I mean, but it's all about effort. It's all about putting the energy in and how bad you want to keep the friendship. At this age, friends don't just happen. It's because people make it happen. It's because you want to be friends. You don't run into each other anymore. Unless you intentionally make a date to see somebody, it's likely you're not going to see them. We would rather just go home and say hi on Facebook, And so, and I feel like the stage of your life has a lot to do with it. Like my best friend, she's got a 7-year-old. She's going through a whole different array of challenges than I am in my stage of empty nester and traveling and doing comedy. So there is some distance there. We don't talk near as much, but when we do spend time together, it is gold. I mean, we appreciate that time and we soak it up and we try to really show up for each other when we can. But there's, the time apart gets longer and longer. But I wouldn't say that the distance necessarily makes our relationship shallow in any way, but it does take a lot of effort. I
agree with that. Everything that you just said, I love the word, the relationship is gold, because you do have those friendships that you find that special person who's been a part of your life for so long, and the relationship is beautiful. And the distance is there. Yes, careers change. Yes, relationships change and marriages and divorces and, on and on. I think it's all about how you value it and the input that you put in. I have found for years, I have a lot of friends I grew up with, but we're not particularly close anymore. But when something is going on, they're there to say, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. So you don't have to be next door neighbors anymore. You don't have to be seeing each other once a year. If you see them once every 10 years or once every 20 years, but you still happen to chat every once in a while, they're still your friend if they're still showing up when it's unexpected.
Yeah.
I agree. It's hard to put the effort in. Establishing friendships has been probably one of the more difficult things for me to do where I am now because I'm in such a different type of community where it's a lot older. Everyone is much, much older than myself. And then there's people that you've thought that were going to be friends and came into your life and then just poof, ghosted and disappeared. And you go, what kind of a person or human are you where you don't have a kind enough respect to just say, hey, life is happening and maybe it's not aligned or whatever. Just be honest. The ghosting stuff, not for me. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't understand why people don't have enough respect for somebody to say, hey, maybe our relationship isn't aligned. And that's okay. I think at this age, do we not have the emotional maturity to say the alignment's not there? Like, have you ever been in that situation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. More with men, I think, than girlfriends. But I think that it's a reflection of their character more than the respect they have for the other person. I feel like it's just a cowardly trait. They just don't have the courage and the self-confidence or whatever on their end to come out and say, this isn't working out for me, whatever. Mm-hmm. But in that regard, I do have a friend that we've been friends 15, 20 years. In the last couple of years, I also moved and we live neighborhoods apart and now don't speak at all. And it's been the strangest thing, but we did take the time to talk about it and that we were in different places and that we still loved each other, but this friendship wasn't really working out on either side and we broke ties. I feel like that we'll reconnect at some point, but that was a very strange experience. We talked it out. We didn't ghost each other, but that was odd.
Balancing, you were saying, when you cut ties with somebody, there's a reason. So how does it go? A season, a lifetime.
Yeah.
So the reason why somebody might come into your life might be different for somebody who's there just seasonally, which I don't really understand what the season means. Does it mean they're there like through fall? What's that point? I don't get it.
I don't know if it means like
I'm
through
your fall friend. We can't be friends any other parts of the season, just for fall. And
hey, if you've ever owned a boat, you've had lots of seasonal friends.
That's true. Right. Yes, I understand now. Okay, I get it. I had a moment there. Yeah. I was like, anyway, ridiculous.
Well, with that particular friendship, the energy and the level of input and intention had changed.
Yeah.
And I felt like the balance of the friendship had changed and that we had both kind of taken turns forcing it to happen and just came to the conclusion, like, we're going to just take a break. So it was a mature thing to do, but it was still hard.
No doubt. It's always hard because nobody wants to be that person. Like, you don't want to be that person where you're known to have these limited friendships. And the one question that I do think about often, and I'm not sure if this has crossed your mind, but when we talk about intention with relationships, I'm very big on intention with everything I choose to do now. And the balance has to be there. Now, do you think it's harder for women to establish relationships? The girls' club sitch, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Where it's cliquey and, I play my cards a little closer. I don't bring people in very often anymore just because of that. It can be sometimes toxic and very unbalanced. And I don't like that feeling of I have to do all the work in order to find some kind of approval or reciprocation from this person. If they're not reciprocating, you're out. I have no patience.
It's with age.
Yes.
Well, we get more picky with how we spend our time. It has to be valuable because, I'd much rather sit in the recliner than waste my time on something I really don't want to do.
We're all there, girl. We are all there. How many times I've been invited to, different situations and scenarios, parties, whatever. And I'm like, I'm good. And I'm learning to use my voice a little bit more in that regard, especially after writing my book. The let me is a reason why it's called that in the first place. It's to let me just be me. And I hold space for the word no.
Yes. I've discovered that too. And I think COVID has got some things to do with that. Things can just happen. I don't know why the light bulb went off so hard for me during that time, but it was like, anything's possible. And so ever since then, I feel like that knows a whole sentence. And, I've even went as far as to tell all my friends, I'm no longer attending baby showers or possibly wedding showers. I will send a gift. I'll send a card. But there's so many and it's exhausting. And I go and smile and dress up and pretend. But I really don't want to go. And my kids are raised and I'm not doing it.
You know what? I love what you just said. You have the emotional maturity to say, hey, this is who I am today in this moment. I'm no longer available for these things. And you know what? The message of paying homage to yourself by saying, I recognize that I'm not good in these situations. And like even 10 years ago, we would have not done that. You do the yeses and you accept all the things because socially that's your responsibility. Have you ever found that some of the strongest friendships come from people that you never imagined or were very unexpected? And then you lean into those kind of relationships that are different from what your normal relationships are. So the interesting part of saying no, taking the emotional maturity aspect of it and being very upfront and open and honest is the best thing you can do. I've always said, please just invite me, but allow me to say no.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, without there being any expectation. Because sometimes we just want the invite. Sometimes you just want to be invited. You have no intention of ever going, but you just want to feel like you're included.
Yeah. The thought does count sometimes.
The thought does count.
Yeah, it does.
I have one really good friend. I love her with all of my being and my soul. We're like two little soulmates. We're about 10 years of age apart. She can tend to be a little bit forgetful at times. And so she's got a very different social life than I do. And sometimes I've been hurt by not having the invites to the dinner or to the afternoon walk, or, when I go, why am I hurt by this? Why am I allowing myself to feel hurt by this friend who has been by my side for 30 years? Like, this is not a thing. Stop making it a thing.
Yeah.
People are allowed to have their own lives, but sometimes friendships can get a little bit messy and we feel hurt because we're left out. That's a me problem. That's not a her problem. So then I say, hey, I'm feeling a little left out. Maybe even if I don't go, just ask. And she goes, okay. Yeah. And I say, I might surprise you one day. If you truly mean you want me to come, I will come if I'm okay in that moment to go. Because there's nothing worse than saying yes and then really regretting saying yes.
Well, that's what I was going to say about the point before, is that it's so freeing for yourself to say no, because I had such a bad habit of saying yes and then bailing out at the last minute, or getting there and having a bad attitude because I knew I didn't want to be there, or knowing that my schedule was just too stacked, but fitting it anyway, and then being a total basket case and everything falling apart because I didn't protect my time and, didn't plan well enough. But I think it really builds your own character when you can use no, and protect your own desires or your own schedule, or it's not just respect for your friends. Well, everybody wants to keep their word. You should keep your word, And
that means a lot. I think back, it's like this contractual obligation where because you're friends, you're supposed to say yes all the time. Who made that rule up? Nobody ever.
Yeah. My best friend's with the little boy, and yeah, she's great at it. She will say no right away if she doesn't want to go. And sometimes it is a little sting. You're like, I didn't even think about it. But when she says yes,
it's on.
When she says for sure yes, it's on. So it goes both ways, I guess. But
so does that mean like friendship with other women impacts our sense of self-worth and identity, do you think?
Absolutely. Hasn't it since childhood? I mean,
you just
at least for me.
Yeah, me too.
If I didn't care what others thought, I would have been confident coming out of the womb.
Right? You're like, ta-da, I'm here. Let's get this going. I feel like I had one friendship growing up that it was always competitive. It was always competitive for the boys, always competitive for who looked best. And then as we grew older, it still remained competitive. And I was like, why is this like this? How do you fix it? How do you get out of that competitive aspect? But I understood it to be that there was insecurity on both parts. And that's 9 times out of 10 what ego is, unkept or undealt insecurity wrapped up in, ego. So when you're not confident and you look to the other person and you say, oh, I wish I had blonde hair, or I wish I had this body, maybe my butt's a little bigger, and you wish you were tinier or whatever. There's always those comparables, right? The yin and yang of it doesn't always mesh. And I think that's part and parcel to why maybe I'm more selective with people that I bring into my life now as I'm older. So I'm not facing that where it brings me back to that competitive, like lack of confidence perspective, because people are judgy, especially when you meet new people. People are always judging you. First 5 seconds of your life, when you meet somebody, they're judging you.
Absolutely. And we all do it. I mean, whether we mean to or not, we're absolutely judged.
Without clear lines, friendships can become cloudy. And I think, especially with new partners and people, now we're cycling back to the dating aspect of friendship. If you have clear set boundaries on establishing a friendship first, the strongest value you can get from that is the friendship. Is it not?
Yeah.
If you're
I would
setting
agree.
clear boundaries, because you know what you're doing. It comes down to that respect.
If you have clear boundaries, you can still date and go into another relationship. Then your partner should be able to see those boundaries. I think that definitely takes boundaries to be friends later. There's a couple people that I've remained friends with. I would say my girlfriends are probably the most prominent in my life. What about you? And do you have old relationships that you're still friends with?
Some, like you, I've had to let go of a few. When you're going through stuff in life, I'm really very aware of who shows up. And when somebody doesn't show up, then that to me is a very clear message that they are not who or what you thought the relationship was. Mm-hmm. I tend to be this person who puts too much value in a relationship too quickly early on. And I go, but I love this person. We're meant to be. And then they're not reciprocal. And I'm like, wah, wah. This is so ridiculous. Why am I doing this? Like we talked about in the last episode, being a type A personality. I'm a driver. I'm a entrepreneur. I believe in forward thinking. I believe in so many aspects of just your intentional value in life. What are you doing? What are you bringing value? What am I bringing? And then does it mesh? So I think about those kinds of things you want to talk with and have a relationship with in whatever form that may come in. I think I'm more guarded and a little more focused on inner circle as I'm getting older.
Yeah. I would agree. Definitely guarded of my inner circle, but I'm just like you. I get so excited about new relationships, friendships, dating, whatever. I'm gung-ho at the beginning and I give it way too much energy before I even find out if I know what I'm getting into, I read a book a while back about loving yourself and it had a whole chapter on, when you date, you have to focus on, do I like this person instead of do they like me? And it really changed my way of thinking because I was totally the girl that went on a date and does he like me? Am I too fat? Does my hair, And it's really not supposed to be about their opinion. Am I interested in this person?
Yes.
And it changed my whole outlook. And it's changed my outlook of friends too. But I feel like in a different aspect, I get caught in this weird place because I present as so much fun. And I don't know if that sounds funny, but I'm usually the fun girl and it looks like I'm carefree, have this great life that just happens and falls together. And it's not like that at all. On the inside, behind the scenes, I'm working my tail off. I'm tired all the time. I'm cranky. Yes. I can be a huge bee when everything doesn't happen the way it's supposed to,
right.
And people come in thinking that I'm just la-di-da. And then when things get serious and it's time to put the pedal to the metal, they can't keep up. Oh, great. Now I've invested at least my time and energy into it. And this isn't something I need to be pursuing. I think that perspective of turning it back to, do I like this person? Is this person good for my life? Instead of, they love me. They think I'm great.
That's the shift of the mindset. We are, as moms too, it kind of always falls sort of back to this as women, where now we're at this pivotal midpoint in our life where everything before that was focused on other people. Now we have the opportunity to focus on ourselves. And what does that look like? So if you were to write a book about yourself, what does that look like? If you were to say, I'm going to put a movie up and you're meeting a new person, I always think of it this way. If you're meeting a new person and he or she is a person that I'm interested in, we're going to sit down, we're going to watch a movie and it's a movie about me and my life. And then you see their response. But again, you're putting it all out there. So just right back to what you were saying, the importance of what those words are. Why am I so concerned about whether they like me or not? It should be a concern of whether I like them or not. And what you're doing is you're owning your responsibility to yourself to choose someone who the energy and the alignment and the values and the balance and, so on. It's like I told my son when he is out there dating, he's 27. I'm like, if you're meeting someone, one of the toughest conversation to have at the very beginning, right off the hop, out of the gate, how do you deal with conflict? How do you navigate conflict if your life becomes a mess? And we have an argument and it gets out of control or someone's upset. How do you navigate that? Kira and I talked about this and she said, well, do you think people are being honest? Well, isn't it truthful and respectful to be honest about that and say, I'm a person who needs time, or I'm a person that can be in your face and wants it fixed now. Like some people, they have different ways that they communicate in that regard, but it's all part of it, right? It's all this messy sort of, we as humans are very complicated. I don't care what anybody says. It's not just men. Women are complicated too.
Oh, yes, we're absolutely complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think anybody that would be dishonest answering that question you would be able to tell. Maybe not, but anyone that's going to answer that dishonestly is most likely a manipulator, and their answer is going to, I mean, if you're going to beat a woman or beat your partner or something, you'd probably lie, but I'm definitely one of those people that needs space. I like to walk away for a minute. I need to think, because you don't want to hear what comes directly out of my unfiltered mouth.
We all have that in us, though. I don't care what anybody says. You're not a perfect fighter. If you have a disagreement, you handle it how you handle it. But I think if you're not emotionally mature enough to handle things with intention, that poses a problem in all relationships, whether it's a partner, a spouse, companion, or even just your best friend. I think identifying what that role is, and again, it's not even a role, but just identifying what your position is in that moment and saying, this is my position right now. I'm pissed, so I need space. Why are we so quick to not be that way? And this is a question that I don't know, maybe listeners can pipe in on, but do you think men and women, we treat our work life better than we treat our home life and the people that are closest to us because it's so comfortable? That comes up. You put a show on, you're in business life, you're networking, you're doing all the things, you're schmoozing, you're playing the game because that's your job, but you're good at your job. Then you come home, you don't know how to be that way when you're at home because you're relaxed, you're being your authentic true self. So how do you be Jekyll and Hyde, like two different people and live this life, and then you can't deal with things when you're at home? I think that friendships and relationships all based on how you're putting it all together as a full meal deal package. I used to say to my husband, you can't come home from business and be all jacked up from business, being on the road for days and days and days and come home. And then I don't even hardly know you. And then we got to start all over again. Then we just fall into the friendship zone. So it's just friendship before, over and above everything else. I often say, how would you treat your guy friends? Do you treat them the same way you would treat your wife or your girlfriend or whatever? Is that the same thing? Do we cross those lines?
We all need a safe space to just completely let it all go. But I think in a long-term relationship or a marriage, you definitely have to put in the work just like you do your job. But I think the job part, the ramifications from bad character or bad decisions or throwing a fit, the ramifications are going to be a lot more life-changing or a lot more immediate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't scream at your boss and expect it, everything to be fine the next day.
Well, you could, but you wouldn't have a job the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, but you can get in a fight at home and not end up divorced, Well,
depends on the severity of that conversation.
That's true.
Yeah, I sort of chuckle because we're pouring out the truth little bit by little bit, trying to bring out the honesty in the dating world and friendships and staying friends after a breakup. It's all kind of part of everything, whether it is a physical relationship, somebody having enough maturity to say, I would just like this to be just a physical relationship and nothing else, nothing more. You know what you're doing? You're being really intentional.
That doesn't work for me. I've tried, but I just am too emotional. And I mean, not in a bad way, but I have too much passion. If I'm going to spend that kind of energy with someone, there has to be passion or I'm not going to want to do it. At this age, in this stage of my life, if your energy doesn't add to mine,
mm-hmm.
I just can't give you any time. And it's not about the men. Those situations just don't typically leave me feeling like my best self.
Right.
And that's who I'm learning to love and protect. And so it's an instant gratification, but later I'm not proud of my actions.
Right.
And so it's more about me. But, that does work for some people and some people can handle it just fine.
I think that now in this generation of the dating world that's out there, it's so disposable where people are so disconnected that there's got to be more meaning and more value to it. So if I thought to myself, okay, in the single life, the single Tracee, what would that look like? Honestly, just terrified because you go, what is really out there? And are people being truly honest and authentic and have integrity? It's so different now. And the open relationship stuff. I had a guy once years and years ago come to me at my office and say, hey, can I take you out for lunch? Welcome to the building. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then he's like, so my wife and I are open and I would like to have, relations with you. And I'm, what now? What? What? You're asking, what? So this isn't just a business lunch. This is you telling me that you have an open relationship with your wife and you're wanting to court me? Is that what's happening here, to be a participant? I don't understand this. So hell to the no. Thank you for thinking of me. Thank you. I'm very, very, very flattered that you chose me. No. What?
Yeah, they're on the dating sites. I mean, all the men that say they're in open relationships and poly, and who knows if their wife knows.
Unless the two of you are sitting in front of me asking this question, I don't believe what you're telling me. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. And again, not that I would ever explore that, but the point is like, don't be that person where you're approaching somebody and this is what you think to be your truth, but it's not really, you're painting a picture that it's something that it's not. Right. So there's the fear out there. You're hearing constantly about the dating nightmares that go on and the things that people deal with. And again, it all circles back to, can we be friends before we start a relationship to have a foundation? And then does somebody just like ghost you because you want to be friends at the beginning? Like, is this what's happening in the world?
Well, I've talked to some guys that I thought were going to be interested, and they're not interested in doing public things. They just want the intimacy.
Yeah.
They want to hang out, Netflix, whatever. And I've had several tell me that now they don't date until they're further along. Yeah, it's like a test drive. Yeah, and they don't date you until they're interested later. And I'm like, well, you don't get access until we've dated, and I'm interested.
See? Change the script. Like, flip the script. Steve Harvey wrote this book called Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man.
Yes, okay? I've read it.
Have you read it?
Yes.
Don't give that cookie up. So interesting that after my first marriage, I was single for many, many years, where I made an intentional decision to do that. Met someone else that I felt head over heels in love with, that I thought was my forever person. My heart was broken for 2 years. I was like, holy Hannah, I'm never going to date again. Never going to do this again. Don't care. Don't want to get back on that wheel. And it is literally like a hamster wheel. And then I read the book and I thought, right? It changes everything. Mm-hmm. It changes your perspective. Everything. Yeah. But if you fundamentally think of it, not only just from like dating and meeting someone, it also applies in other areas of your life. There's so many incredible takeaways from the book. And the one thing I learned is that men have sort of this pyramid where if you're at the bottom, it's not good. And these are the signs. If you're at the top, these are the signs. And then the part about the cookie, don't give that cookie up. I, with my husband, said 3 months. You're not getting nothing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
3 months.
The rule was 90 days, wasn't it, in the book?
Yep. I said, no way, Jose. We can do all the things, but we're not doing the thing. Not happening. He said the one thing that shifted everything for me was that you stood hard and fast to that rule you'd set for yourself. And that showed me the integrity of a person that you are. And I'd thought about that before him, sort of the same sort of idea before I read the book. But I understand that friendships with other people, whether it's a relationship or friendships, you kind of have to apply sort of the same rules, because otherwise, what are we doing? We're giving our best self to somebody who might not actually deserve it.
Right. I've had so many new acquaintances, friendships, doing comedy, you just meet so many people and you see the same people every week, and they're not necessarily relationships that you would have found outside of that hobby. I've had so many new acquaintances ask for money or some type of extravagant favor that I'm like, what? But it's that same thing. Like, if you give yourself away in the beginning, it will continue. It definitely goes into other parts. Just like work-life balance. Mm-hmm. I have been so much better at it at this job than my last job. I'm not taking work home. I'm not spending a ton of money on my own materials. I want you to give me a stipend for my continuing education. Mm-hmm. Now I'm Monday through Thursday, and they asked me again the other day to work Fridays. And no, Fridays are my day. And I'm sorry that you need help. Charity Jones won't be the one.
To have the kahunas, to have a new friendship and to be like that. It speaks more about what your intentions are with that.
In my old self, I would have totally given in and helped them out.
much like you've said, where we're kind of people pleasers a little bit. I was always like that for a very long period of time till I finally just said one day, I found my voice. It's not happening anymore. I have to really work hard to protect my own peace and pour into friendships the pour back. So if we're pouring out a margarita and we're pouring out our feelings and we're pouring out this level of balance of connection, I also need you to pour back into that. It's not just about me pouring constantly. You also have to pour. Funny scenario, but how I met Kira, this whole Margaritas Could Talk started, we met on an airplane going to Mexico 12 years ago.
How fun.
And yes, we sit next to each other. I was taking my son with me and we just hit it off. We talked the whole way, talk. Then we go separate ways for our vacations. We come back, we meet at the airport, sitting in the same seats, sit side by side together again, surprisingly. And then it became this established friendship where it just evolved and we kept in touch. We talked the whole way again. We talked about life. Life got in the way. We both had different things going on in our life. We always remained connected, but not like tight connected until we always would check in with one another, say, hey, lady, what's shaking? What's going on? And you tap into it. And then in that moment, she's like, you have no idea how I've been thinking about you. And it just aligns and you go, there's this balance there. So keep pouring into friendships that pour back. And that's where If Margaritas Could Talk sort of came to be, because we kept pouring into each other when we needed to. And we've established this great friendship. It started on a trip to Mexico, so it's only appropriate that it would be called If Margaritas Could Talk, because we were talking a lot and it was margaritas that were doing it. But, make space for the ones who help you grow, laugh, and stay out of jail. Those are the things we should be doing in life. I don't know. Remember that whether it's an ex or a new friend or your ride or die since 1998, I think honest boundaries are sexy. Just have boundaries. Just be sexy about it. Be like, this is how I roll now.
Yeah.
But you put it in a sexy way and it receives differently.
Yes.
With knowledge.
Well, I think it does make us more sexy. I mean, it makes us more confident when we know our own boundaries and we are confident to navigate the world without being scared that people are going to take advantage of us or, get stuck in a toxic relationship for too long. We feel safer with clear boundaries, and practice of putting in those boundaries.
You set healthy boundaries with your people. You'll know who's the ride or dies. I mean, you just know.
Yeah.
So then I question too, well, really, do I need new friendships? No, I don't. If it's going to take parts of me that create unhappiness or insecurity, I want nothing to do with it. And it's not that it's my way all the time. Because again, here we are, the let me theory, right? It's a part of it. But let me just understand that I am who I am. And I don't need to change for anybody. And a lot of people go, well, isn't that kind of selfish? No, it's not. It's me setting boundaries. It's me saying these are things that are acceptable in friendships, relationships, acquaintances, all the things.
It's not selfish because we want our friends to be the same. We want them to protect their boundaries. We want them some fortitude about who they want to be, Yeah.
Have your own boundaries. And I respect you when you come to me to say, hey, maybe don't be that way. Or maybe, hey, this hurt me. Or maybe something you said, like one time, my best friend. Okay, this is it in a nutshell. She shows up. We're having a huge Christmas party. This is a few years ago. And she shows up and she looks like she's like 20. Okay, she's 10 years older than me. I'm like, what the hell are you wearing? And in that moment, I went, why did I say that? And it wasn't till she had fake hair, all these things. And I'm like, you're in your 60s. What are you doing? Why are you dressing like this? And I had a moment where, why am I being like that? You know what it was in that moment? I wasn't feeling so good about myself. So she's looking hot and fabulous. And I had to question because I was feeling bad about myself. So what did I do? Turn into a mean girl about it. Even though I was being sarcastically, I came forward and I said, what is wrong with you? I had to have a talk with myself and I sat her down with her and I said, I'm so sorry. In that moment, it made me feel some type of way and I was not reciprocal to what you were throwing out there. That's true friendship. When you can be blatantly brutal, honest, but take accountability.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm sorry if I said anything that hurt you. She goes, I wasn't hurt. I go, but I feel really bad because that was inappropriate and I shouldn't have spoken like that. She's like, I was not hurting because I know who you are. So
that's beautiful.
Something about being honest and truthful and whether you can have a relationship with your ex after it's done and be friends. I don't think it's possible myself, maybe for a short window of time, but people move on. And then like, you're going to be like, hey, here's my new other person and we're going to be friends with you. No, that's not how it works.
Well, and I think if you're really in love with a man, you want them to feel secure. You know, you want your man to feel secure in your relationship. And so if any of that's going to be threatening, then then those friendships aren't worth it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're really going to be in a committed, loving relationship. And so, yeah, they might work for a while you're single and they might be acquaintances, but I don't really think deeps with exes can work either.
I don't think so. It's
especially not if you really had good chemistry.
Well, because you know the chemistry is always there.
Right.
You know the chemistry is always there. There's undeniable chemistry.
In fact, I went to lunch with a friend today that we used to date, and he was passing through Tulsa, and I said, oh, it's funny, our episode today is going to be on, you know, if you can be friends with your exes. And he was like, look, we're proof. And I was like, well, are we? I said, if you got in another serious relationship, or if I got in a serious relationship, would they allow it? Would we really be hanging out? Would it be okay if we came and got breakfast? And he was like, no.
That's it right there. Like, is it a seasonal thing that you're friends with someone because the moment somebody else comes into either party's life, there's no space for that person anymore? So it's not really a true friendship. It's the situationship, right? Maybe.
I think so.
Yeah, for sure. I hope all of our listeners that are listening to this episode today maybe have some of these questions answered that might have been in the back of your mind. I know we have all thought it. There's no way around whether or not friendships are true or, you know, whatever, they are season the lifetime. But I think that we're all hopefully sure enough to be open and honest and confident in our laying in our truth, because it's raw and it's real. Be open with your friends and don't ghost somebody. If you have no intention of being friends with somebody, don't ghost them. That's the worst thing you can do to somebody, is then they feel like they did something wrong. If you're just that person that says, hey, this isn't vibing, it's not working for me, just be honest. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Well, I wanted to thank you guys for tuning in today. And don't forget to join us next week as we discussed some of the best, content that's coming out and what's going on in the gossip world of celebs and more. Charity and I will be back again at it next week. If you have something to add, please drop a comment or send us a message. We would love to hear from you. I don't know, Charity, I think that wraps up today's episode. What do you think?
I think it's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Until next time, keep laughing, keep living, and remember, if life gives you limes, you make a margarita. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow for more on your favorite listening platform, or buy us coffee on Facebook, the Gram, and www.ifmargaritascould.com, #podcastdiva. Cheers, everybody, and keep those friendships alive if you choose.
Yes, keep your
Bye
besties.
for now. Bye for now.